America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The heart of Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book.
I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sin.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to
Believe It
or Not. I'm Trevor Poelman.
And I'm Damien Doepping.
And we nailed that intro.
Yeah, second try. There we go.
Try. We did it. Listen, folks, if you can hear the Office theme in the background, that's because, you know, times are different and we don't have soundproofing, so you may hear some noises coming from my neighbor's house, but they're very nice people, so please forgive them.
Well, I mean, you could probably forgive them even if they weren't nice people, right?
That's true. Yeah, forgiveness isn't just...
Yeah, that's the lordly way.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what they say, the lordly?
Yeah, they say it's the lordly way. Hey, Trevor, that's not the lordly way to do things. And I say, you're right. I'm going to do things the lordly way.
I mean, I don't know. I never had to be lordly or, you know, follow the lordly steps. So I'm going to you as the expert here. I am the resident dum-dum. So
okay. So you've never had to be lordly, but have you ever had to be gourdly?
Like a gourd?
Like a decorative gourd? Yeah.
I mean, is that like where you just like sit in a bowl on the table in the fall?
I guess so, yeah.
I don't really know what that is.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this then. I got a couple questions for you here. Do you like to talk to tomatoes?
I don't like tomatoes.
You don't like to, but do you like to talk to them?
No.
Can a squash make you smile?
I think I have a feeling where we're going with this now. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever been like, that's a squash, I'm gonna smile. Maybe like I went to like a pumpkin patch and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe.
And have you ever waltzed with potatoes up and down the produce aisle?
Does having them in my basket and walking count?
Yeah. I think a walk is a kind of a waltz.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a waltz in Matilda.
So I've got 1 no and 2 maybes.
Okay, great. We're talking VeggieTales.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the theme song for the old VeggieTales.
See, this is something that I know a bit of.
What do you know about VeggieTales?
I know that we used to watch them at my one friend's house because he was a big fan of them, but we never watched any of the really like Christian ones. We watched the more like, I guess you would say, secular episodes. Yeah,
or the compilation of like the silly songs with Larry, or like the ones that are more just moral tales.
Yeah, like wacky things that happen, or they do stuff, and then, you know, they would solve problems.
Yeah,
and it wasn't really preachy, so I never knew it was a religious thing until like later, and then I was like, oh, okay.
So you probably watched the NBC edits of them, maybe.
Oh, is that what those might have been?
Yeah, so they did some. I think they took the original ones, put them on NBC, and just got rid of all the God stuff.
Ah, that probably is what I saw, or I just don't remember the God stuff because I didn't know what it was and I just ignored it.
Yeah, and you're like, why are they saying these weird names and weird like book verses? And
it was probably like, well, I'm coming in mid-season, so I'm clearly missing a lot of things here.
Yeah,
so I just kind of took it as that.
Yeah. So VeggieTales, let's talk about what it is and some history of it.
For those who don't know.
Yeah, so VeggieTales started in 1993 as a direct-to-VHS and eventually a direct-to-DVD series of Christian animated cartoons starring vegetables. It usually had 3 segments, so 2 main stories and then a silly songs with Larry. So it would be, usually the first one was kind of a morality tale or like a parody of some popular culture thing with like a message, and then a silly songs with Larry, and then usually the third one was a Bible story. But definitely the third one was always a little more heavy-handed in like its Christian message.
Right.
And that's kind of like the format of it. If they had a Bible story, most of the time they were from the Old Testament.
More fun.
Yeah, more fun. And also, like, sometimes they would do, like, parables that Jesus told, but they would never do New Testament stories, which was because one of the creators, Phil Vischer, like the kind of the one who got it all started, made a promise to his mom that he would never show Jesus as a vegetable.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. So it was Phil Vischer and this guy named Mike. A guy named Mike.
Okay.
Mike
Nawrocki.
Nawrocki, yes, there we go. They went to Bible college together, and then they were involved in like their church puppet ministry. Eventually, Phil started to get into computer animation and kind of came up with these characters. And yeah, the main characters were Bob and Larry. They were, the Larry the cucumber and Bob the tomato. Yeah. Phil said he didn't want to be what a regular Christian cartoon would be at the time. He wanted to like actually have funny jokes, and he wanted to be a little less in your face with the kookiness and how funny the characters are. Like he's like, if it was a regular Christian show, they would have named it Tom the Tomato and Kooky the Cucumber or whatever, but he wanted to be like, just give them kind of boring names and just make the characters interesting and funny. Yeah. And I think you see with Bob and Larry, it's a very much like a classic straight man, funny man comedy duo. Mm-hmm. He was definitely influenced, I think, by a lot of those things. The original plan wasn't to have the Silly Songs with Larry in every episode. It was going to be just a different segment in the middle with every episode. But after one time he didn't do Silly Songs with Larry, he just got a bunch of letters and angry emails saying like, why aren't we seeing Silly Songs with Larry anymore? So they just decided to do it.
People wanted more of that. I remember like Larry Boy. Yeah. And I remember, were there peas? Is that something?
Yeah, there was peas. I think they were French. Yeah, they were the French peas. And the most iconic thing I think is it was basically a parody of Monty Python when they were on top of the walls of Jericho.
Right. I think I do know that, yeah.
Yeah. It had some guest stars as well. Do you know Amy Grant?
The name's familiar.
Yeah, she's like a Christian singer turned pop singer. Wayne Brady was a voice on some episodes.
Was he?
Terry Crews.
I
think that's later, probably like in the Netflix version when they eventually got on Netflix. That's
because they're still going now, right?
I think they ended the Netflix one, and then they're rebooting. But we'll get into kind of the different variations of kind of what the show was and stuff. But like,
right.
And then other notable characters is Junior Asparagus, which was voiced by Phil's wife. So Phil voiced Bob, and then Mike voiced Larry. Yeah. And then Junior was voiced by Phil's wife and Lisa, I believe. And then also they all voiced different characters at first. It was very family and like friend. Yeah.
Well, what else?
Very low budget.
What else are you going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think Homestar Runner. Did you ever watch Homestar Runner?
I did, yes.
Yeah, that was the same thing, I think, where they was just a group of friends and they all voiced the stuff, and yeah. Mm-hmm. I wish I could do an episode about them, but it doesn't tie into our theme.
I do kind of associate the two slightly together in a weird way.
Yeah, very similar sense of humor.
I actually think I heard about Homestar from the same person I heard about VeggieTales.
Oh, okay, that would make sense, yeah.
So they have this weird parallel in my kind of mind as far as that goes.
To talk about other characters. There was other characters. There was a funny gourd and stuff like that. So it started in 93, and if you think about it, that predates Toy Story and is the same year as Jurassic Park. So for like a Christian company, small company, using CGI like as good as it was, it was pretty impressive.
They were innovators.
Mm-hmm. Phil started playing around with animation and stuff, and they created a company called GraphX, which they eventually changed to Big Idea, which, you know, is a better name.
Than GraphX, yeah.
Yeah. He was playing around with the software, and it just was early software for CGI, and it was harder for him to animate clothes and animate arms and legs. So he was just tried to think of a simple thing to do. First round was he animated... It was the main character was a candy bar or a chocolate bar, and then the other character is going to be different candies and snacks and stuff.
Yeah.
And then his wife pointed out that parents wouldn't be pleased with their kids being obsessed with candies. So they decided to go with the healthy route and make them vegetables.
I mean, makes sense.
But his goal was always he just wanted to create something to teach God's message to kids, to teach like a Christian message to little children.
And what's better than puppets? 3D tomato.
Exactly. The first one that came out was called "Where's God When I'm Scared?"
Yeah.
Franken Celery was one of the stories. So the kid was watching a scary movie and got nightmares, and then they come out and say God is bigger than the boogeyman. But that one, Phil started animating it by himself, and eventually hired 3 other people to animate it. But it was because it was such a rough process, and it was just taking forever to get it done. So eventually he's like, okay, I got to hire people, because I think they already had like a distribution deal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Through like a Christian company. So they had to get it done. And then Rakshak and Benny, based on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, was the one where they wouldn't bow down to the giant Easter bunny, the chocolate Easter bunny.
Wait. What's the name of this story? Like, who is it based off of?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was a story in the Bible where they wouldn't bow down to a false idol, so the king put them in a furnace, but the furnace didn't burn them, and they survived it, and an angel, saved them or whatever, and then everybody was like, okay, we're going to worship this god now. But the way the VeggieTales did it was they wouldn't bow down to a chocolate bunny, but they still got put in a furnace, which is pretty graphic for a kid's show.
Did they?
Like if they hadn't
but they
survived.
survived.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, they were just roast vegetables then.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. Yeah. And that one was, they said, one of the hardest ones to make too, because at that point they had 10 employees and they had 4 computers. They created brand new sets and they had these all brand new characters, and they went with the Easter bunny. So it's like, that was harder to animate too. And they had these big musical numbers. So it was just like a really tough one, they said, to animate. And then the other really tough one was The Toy That Saved Christmas.
Yeah, that was, I think I had that one on VHS, but I don't think I ever watched it.
Oh, really? It had like, one of the songs is something I still listen to every Christmas. This is when Junior Asparagus is singing I Can't Believe It's Christmas.
Because I think we got it as a gift from my grandmother on my dad's side, and they're like a pretty Christian side. So I think we got it, and I was just like, yeah, I'm good. And I think I was too old at that time to really be interested in it anyway. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that one has a really heavy-handed, like, Jesus is the reason for the season message, too.
Yeah.
It's a fun one, but yeah, it's a very Christian, very heavy-handed Christian episode.
Well, I mean, from a Christian animation studio, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been nice if Jesus was like a baby carrot, but I guess they wouldn't have done that.
Was he a person in it?
No, he wasn't. They just talked about him.
Well, they could have made like a regular Jesus, couldn't they have?
Yeah, they could have. Yeah, I don't know if they show humans, though, at all.
Like, why can't a person Jesus save the vegetables?
Yeah, that's true. Jesus died for the vegetables too, people.
Did he?
I don't know. In this theology, he did. They're Jesus-worshipping vegetables who quote the Bible, so...
That's true. I didn't know they could read, but...
Oh, yeah. QWERTY comes out at the end and gives a Bible verse.
Who is this?
So, QWERTY, the only, I think it's the only non-vegetable or fruit character that comes out, and it's a computer that teaches you about the Bible.
Oh, QWERTY. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one was a top episode, they said, to get out because it had a very strict deadline because it was a Christmas one. And it was also the only one the first one to come out on TV.
Yes.
So those are some of the early kind of tough ones for them, but
yeah. Did they start releasing all of them on TV after that, or was it just that one and everything was still just direct to video kind of thing?
Well, at that point, yeah, just that one, and everything else was still direct to video. For a while, they were like one of the biggest animation studios around with how successful VeggieTales was.
Yeah.
But they created other ones, like they had 3-2-1 Penguins, and they had some other like Christian animated cartoons that Big Idea was producing. So they were doing very well. And then in the 2000s, it started to kind of die down. And what happened too was Big Idea made a deal with Warner Home Video to release merchandise and stuff.
Yeah.
They were sued by Lyric Studio, which used to produce their merchandise.
Uh-huh.
So they lost that lawsuit, even though there wasn't a contract. It was overturned eventually, but in the meantime, Big Idea went bankrupt.
Okay.
And eventually, Phil and Mike created other companies, but still kept doing the voices, or did the voices eventually again when it went on Netflix.
Right.
And NBC. NBC ended up creating VeggieTales on TV, which is maybe the one that you saw. And that was in 2006.
That feels too late for when I would have seen it. I think that
would have been.
I think I would have seen it before then.
So now when they did new intros, they got Bob always ended the episode before with reminding the kids that God loves them or whatever. God made them and he loves them or whatever. But
is that what he said?
Yeah, yeah. He always said
God loves you.
God loves you or whatever. I don't know. And so they changed it to something like "Thanks for coming" or whatever. But it was Phil and Mike, but especially Phil, were very on the fence about approving that change because of the whole mission statement was always to teach Christianity. Like that was kind of the main idea. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the show was about just like a morality tale and stuff. But he eventually agreed to it just to keep the other animators and people employed. He felt worse about making them unemployed than he did about, changing the message. Because it wasn't like they changed to a bad message. It wasn't like,
No. They just took it from being overtly like Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's
then
more sneaky Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was in 2014 that VeggieTales in the House started on Netflix.
VeggieTales in the House.
Yeah. So they changed some of the animation, like the animation style, and they also made it so they weren't just on the countertop anymore. They were all through the house, and the house was like a city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and eventually they called it VeggieTales in the City. But it was, so they went on like different adventures around the house and in the house as opposed to just like them on the countertop and then acting out a scene or whatever.
Right.
And that was the whole thing with the original one is most of the stories were it was like they were putting on a play. Mm-hmm. And so they would have cheap like cardboard sets and stuff that were animated and like fun ways to like make special effects using stuff you'd have in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Where now it's like they went on full like adventures and stuff. The Netflix ones, I think because they didn't have the same kind of NBC standard regulations where you're not allowed to promote a certain religion, Netflix doesn't have anything like that. So they went back to quoting Bible verses and saying God loves you and stuff like that. But that eventually ended. And last year, they announced that Trinity Broadcasting Network has purchased the rights to VeggieTales. So like a blatantly Christian company. And they're hiring pretty much the original crew back.
Right.
So, and they're going back to the old style of animation. So now it's like, a lot of people are saying VeggieTales is going to be back.
Yeah, it's like a reboot of the original.
Exactly.
Okay.
The whole like Silly Songs with Larry in the end. Yeah. It's not just like a sitcom kind of show anymore. It'll go back to the original format.
So have you been dipping in and out, kind of like seeing what each different little iteration of the show has been over the years, or?
Yeah, it was like I was a fan in the 90s, and then I've just been kind of like peeking in on what's happening with this. Is this still a thing? And it's I think, after it was sold to Home Warner and the new company ended up being like Big ID Incorporated, but it was like not really their company. So after that, I just lost interest, and then just dipping back in and just seeing what it kind of looks like and stuff. So
fair enough.
So let's talk about some other trivia and interesting things about VeggieTales. They won 3 Emmy Awards. Oh, sorry, nominated for 3 Emmy Awards. They didn't win. 4 Annie Awards, 13 Dove Awards, which makes sense. That's like the Christian awards.
Oh, okay.
One World Animation.
What are they called?
The Dove Awards.
Dove Awards.
The Dove Awards,
okay.
Yeah. Our friend Chelsea was nominated for a Dove Award. So.
Oh, yeah?
Well, that's what I said when she was on my web show. But
was that with her?
She was
with her dad.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, with her dad. Yeah, she was on an album that was nominated for a Dove Award.
Do you think we'll ever get nominated for one?
Oh, we better. If we're not nominated, if everybody can just write into the Dove Awards nominating us, that'd be really helpful. So Phil really went through a period of time where he regretted what VeggieTales became.
Okay.
He said he wished he taught them how to be a Christian as opposed to just teaching Christian morality. Like he wanted, he said that he didn't want them to act like Christians. He wanted them to be Christians. So he really wished that it was more like just about blatantly converting to Christianity,
Right.
as opposed to like nice little lessons from the Bible.
Uh-huh.
So he created a show called Buck Denver Asks What's in the Bible.
Buck
which
Denver asks what's in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was a 13-episode show that walked kids through the Bible using puppets, animation, songs, and stuff. Where it was less about just a nice tale and more about creating.
Yeah, trying to really
Christian kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how that would play. Like, I'm curious to see how kids would respond to something like that.
I don't know. Like, well, I guess I watched Superbook, which was like they'd go through the Bible and tell Bible stories, mostly Old Testament, and there was another one with a time traveling house that I'm forgetting the name of.
A time traveling house. Okay.
Yeah, a mad scientist who owned a time traveling house, and they met Jesus and stuff like that.
Okay.
But this is more like it's like a catechism, like an in-depth like study of the Bible, but for kids. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, good for them for kind of like, yeah, you can understand this, not treating kids like total dipshits, but at the same time, I don't know many kids who would be interested or care about something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Then again, I don't know many Christian children, to be honest. So.
That's a good point. I know a few more than you do, probably because of my family. But
yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's more like they put it on in their Sunday school class for the kids, and you have to watch it, or like parents put it on, and it's like you're gonna learn about that Bible.
Yeah.
Like I can't see a kid being out going around like, I need more resources to teach me about the Bible.
Really? Why not? I don't see why you wouldn't. I feel like that's a very normal thing for a child to say.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't you?
Yeah, no, I think so. You're right. I don't know. I think overall, I don't think it's like VeggieTales was necessarily like an evil in the world. I think there's some things we talk about on this podcast that it's like,
yep,
oh man, this is an awful thing that shouldn't have been in the world. But overall, I mean, I think the humor and the good, kind of outweigh other stuff.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't think it's necessarily I mean, what I've seen and what I remember, I was never like, oh, they're really trying to indoctrinate me with this stuff. It was just kind of like, these are some people doing some goofy shows for kids while also still kind of pushing their agenda.
Exactly. And so I think that's one of my issues, is that it is obviously like an agenda pushing thing with a specific religion.
At the same time, though, too, I mean, if that is your religion and this is what you believe, then of course you're going to want to have something where it does have that. So
exactly,
it fills that niche, and I understand it. And it's very easy to avoid if you don't want it. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah. Another interesting thing I always think about with the VeggieTales is just how they'll take a story from the Bible that's like very violent or very sexually explicit and just find it a way to make it for children.
Oh man, I think it would have been great if they'd have just tried to make it as violent and sexually explicit as they possibly could.
Yeah, like the Brick Bible. Do you ever see that one, the Lego Bible?
No.
They just, this guy, he went through the Bible and just made like each chapter and pretty much each verse of the Bible with Legos.
Oh, okay.
And but just like full violent and full sexual and
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should probably link that for everyone to see.
Yeah, for sure. I will. Like there was an episode of VeggieTales though it's called George and the Duck. And it's basically a retelling of David and Bathsheba.
Yep.
So, like, the Bible version is he's on the roof, he sees her bathing on her roof, and he's like, oh, I want to get with her. So he sends her husband to war where he's killed on the front lines so that he can get with her. So, and then he's the king, so she has to come over and marry him or whatever. And then God punishes him by, like, killing their firstborn.
Oh. That's not very
in the
nice.
VeggieTales version, in the VeggieTales version, it's Larry the Cucumber is jealous that his neighbor has a rubber ducky that he wants, so he sends the neighbor to war. And the neighbor gets hit with slushies or whatever.
Wait. How did he send his neighbor to war?
He was King George. It was King George and the Duck, so it was like this like
he was
mythical.
He was a king.
He was still a king in this version, but instead of wanting to have sex with the lady next door, he wanted to play with a rubber ducky.
Couldn't, as the king, he have just taken the rubber ducky rather than send the guy to war.
Like, I have your rubber ducky. Like, you don't have to send the guy to get into the slushy war or whatever the war was.
And I think in some kingdoms, the king could have sex with your wife. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
but I don't know. I think he got in trouble in the VeggieTales version, but I don't think God killed his firstborn.
Right.
But I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Well, if God's killing your firstborn for playing with a rubber ducky, then I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a different issue.
The other thing is, it has been called out by at least one person for using racist stereotypes.
Really?
Yeah, but and their point was or less about stereotypes, but more like the good guys are always played by people with like American kind of white sounding voices, and then the bad guys always have foreign accents.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel that's a tricky kind of way to do it, because I mean that's we do that all the time. Like, how many villains are British, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with VeggieTales, and I think they always did this, was that with the teleplay idea, with the idea that they're always just putting on a play, is they didn't have reoccurring villains or anything. They just had different people in their cast of characters play villains. Sometimes they were the good guys. They always just kind of had different roles. So
I also feel too, as like as a North American speaking kind of person, when you try and put on different characters too, you're always going to adopt some sort of difference too, and to make it more distinct and seem more different. That I think that could be part of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you've done a lot of voice auditions and stuff too, where you're like, okay, what do I do with this character now? Or
yeah. So I don't know. I feel maybe it was partly necessity. I don't know if it was necessarily a racist or xenophobic kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely not. I definitely don't think it was on purpose. And I think, if anything, it was just a trope of the time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Another thing is, so there's this awful satire site called the Babylon Bee.
Okay.
And they're trying to be the Christian Onion, but I always do this thing where if anybody talks about, oh, this is a funny article from the Babylon Bee, I'm like, okay, go to their site or go to their Facebook page and scroll down and count until you get to a homophobic or transphobic post, because it's going to be quick. Wow. So I never suggest the Babylon Bee, but there was some controversy around. They posted an article saying that on the new Netflix show in favor of legalized marijuana, they were going to create a Cannabis Carl character, and it got shared around because people thought it was real, and they're like, "How far has VeggieTales gone?"
That's pretty funny.
But that's not true. They never had a cannabis character. Another thing, though, I did notice in the Netflix one is they had a bacon character, which I thought was very strange.
A bacon character?
Yeah. Oh. I don't know if it's the first meat character they ever had, but I thought that was really weird.
I think they're just being inclusive that way.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about references in other medias. In The Simpsons, they've done a number of parodies of VeggieTales. Mm-hmm. One of them was the Passion of the Salad, Mel Gibson's VeggieTales movie, where like Bob the Tomato was playing Jesus and was getting whipped or whatever while carrying the cross. And I think there was another one where it was like Larry the Cucumber comes down and tells Homer in a dream that he's the new Messiah.
Oh, jeez.
SNL did one called Religestables.
Religestables?
Yeah. Back when they used to do the TV's Funhouse, they did Religestables, and it was basically like their version of VeggieTales, but they would go through just different atrocities within religion and different like controversial things within religion. So they had like the Crusades where people were being hit with like potato mashers and stuff, and then they had like a cucumber priest admit to molesting baby carrots, and they had like suicide bombers and so
I just
and then they did
I just found the image for the Salad of the Christ. That was the Mel Gibson episode, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I think I remember that one now. I don't remember that well, but I remember bits of the other one.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Do you ever see the show Drawn Together?
Yeah.
They did, the VeggieTales came up as, they were the Veggie Fables, and they basically sang a song about how God is always watching you when you masturbate and stuff like that. And I think Robot Chicken did it a few times. Yeah, theirs was called the Fruit Fables.
I'm not surprised by that either.
Yeah, and that was the one I saw. It was a banana and a apple were Bob and Larry, but the banana was being used in a sex ed class. Like he got a job in a sex ed class where they were showing them how to put on the condom, and then Bob was mad for teaching contraceptions are okay.
Yeah, I mean.
So yeah, it's kind of seeped into all of pop culture, and yeah. Any other thoughts that you have on the old VeggieTales?
Not really. I mean, I think we kind of went over. It was fine for what it was and for who it was for. Yeah. Again, you and I both have our issues with religiosity in children's media. But
yeah, exactly.
At the same time, I understand it, and I understand why it was made. And I think it was probably better than something that could have been a little more militant.
Yeah, exactly. Like an Adventures in Odyssey or something.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, yeah.
So, I mean, I was just going to say, you know what? Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. At least it was funny.
Yeah, at least they had some jokes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I don't have a Christian rock lyric, and I don't have a Bible quiz.
What?
I have a silly songs quiz.
Oh.
And now it's time for Silly Songs with Laddie, the part of the show where Laddie comes out and sings a silly song. So without further ado, Silly Songs with Laddie.
Are these silly Christian songs or just like silly songs in general?
They're all silly songs with Larry.
Oh, silly songs with Larry.
So what I'll do
right, doy.
is I'll say some lyrics, but I'll leave one word blank, and then you have to tell me what that word is.
Okay.
So let's see how well you know silly songs with Larry.
Not well.
Not well, okay. All right, number one. 'Cause you're his blank, his yummy blank. He'll wait for you. Yeah, he'll wait for you. Oh, you're his blank, his tasty blank. He'll wait for you. Oh, he'll wait for you.
I'm afraid what this could be, but you're his blank, his yummy blank.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably not dick.
No. What if it was though?
Is it I don't know. Treat is creepy. I don't know. Vegetable?
Yeah.
Is it cucumber? Because he is a cucumber? You're his...
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it was cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger?
So it was a love song about somebody waiting in the drive-thru for a cheeseburger, but they're still serving breakfast, so he has to wait for the cheeseburger.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like a big ballad about waiting for his cheeseburger.
I was thinking that when it said you're his, I thought you were talking about God, so that's why.
Oh.
So I was like, what? All right. Number two.
Okay, number two. If my blanks said adios, I don't like you, I think you're gross, that'd be too bad, I might get mad.
Friends?
Is that your final answer?
If my friend said adios, you're too gross?
Mm-hmm. If my blank said adios, I don't like you, I think you're gross, that'd be too bad, I might get mad.
Yeah, I guess friends.
It was Lips.
Lips?
Yeah, it's the Lip song.
Okay.
It's the whole sketch is that Larry's in his therapist's office talking about how much he loves his lips.
Well, it's nice that they're normalizing therapy.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. I mean, and once you leave the faith too, you might need to go to a.
Yeah, I know I did.
Number three.
Number three. We are the blank who don't do anything. We just stay at home and lay around. If you ask us to do anything, we'll just tell you we don't do anything.
Is this the pirates who don't do anything?
That's right.
Yeah, I know about these, and I saw that they did a movie about these things, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So it was a silly song, and then eventually it became its own movie.
Wow, spinoff.
I think people were upset with that movie because it was the first original story that didn't have a Christian message.
Oh.
So besides the ones that were edited for TV, it was the first new movie that didn't have a blatant Christian message. Mm. That's another thing, another piece of trivia.
I think it's funny that you would get mad that a show would do something that,
Yeah,
is still within the same theme, kind of feel, but it wasn't blatantly Christian enough for you.
Yeah.
Like give him a break.
Number 4. Everybody's got a blank. Yours is fast, but mine is slow. Oh, where you get them, I don't know. But everybody's got a blank.
Everybody's got a blank. Is it butthole?
This is 2 words. Oh, yeah. And it isn't butthole.
I like how the thing I said was 2 words, too. Well, I guess. Yeah. I mean, is butthole 2 words or 1 word?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I kept struggling with whether VeggieTales was 1 word or 2. I think I've landed on 1.
Let me see. Well, I've seen it like hyphenated and not, so I don't know, actually. Maybe it's just 1. No, just 1 word. Well, in Urban Dictionary, it's 2, but on Merriam-Webster's, it's 1.
Okay. I don't know, though. They're pretty similar companies.
What, butthole?
No, Urban Dictionary and Webster's Dictionary. Pretty similar mission statements.
Well, I think it depends how you're doing it. Anyway, 2 words. It's 2 words. Everyone's got one. Yours is fast. Mine is slow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
A water buffalo.
Water buffalo.
And then the Archibald, the asparagus comes out and says, you can't say that. You can't say that everybody has a water buffalo because everybody doesn't have a water buffalo. And then everybody's gonna be writing in saying, where's my water buffalo? So
I mean, that's a valid point. Because last I checked, I don't have a water buffalo.
I mean, I do, but it's like you gotta understand that not everybody has the same privileges.
That's true. You gotta check your privilege.
Yeah. And then finally, oh, where is my blank? Oh, where is my blank? Oh, where is my blank?
I know this one. This is hairbrush.
Do you know it from VeggieTales or from when we lived together and I would walk around singing it all the time?
Both.
Okay.
I'd heard about it before, but then I think I forgot it, and then you sang it all the time. I'm like, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I always, that song I always get stuck in my head, and then like a lot of times just like old praise and worship songs I'd get stuck in my head, like Our God is an Awesome God or something like that.
Yeah.
Just walk around the house singing that.
That's fair.
All right, everybody, if you're still quarantined, depending on when this comes out, stay safe, watch some VeggieTales.
On Netflix, right?
On Netflix. And eventually on Trinity Broadcasting. So maybe pirate those ones so you're not supporting that evil corporation.
Yeah, just pirate it.
Yeah. But have a wonderful time.
And wash your fruits and vegetables.
That's a good idea. That's the lesson we're going to learn from this.
Yeah.
And support local farmers maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
You should. Yeah. Get out there. Go to your farm. Well, I don't know if there's farmers markets right now, but...
No, but I think there's companies that like do delivery to your door,
right,
or whatever, based on like local. Instead of a farmer's market, you can get like butchered meat and stuff from local butchers.
Oh, that's nice.
And produce and stuff. Yeah, so there are companies doing stuff like that. So maybe look around.
Yeah, look around. You know what? It's a hard time for everybody. So help the people making your food.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Love you.
Work, Sky Moon.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to
Believe It or Not.
Or Not.
Or Not.
Or Not.
I didn't know how we were doing it.
Neither did I. How's everyone doing?
Should
we start again?
Are you asking them or us?
I was asking them, but let's start again.
All right, let's start again.